Guys, Free here, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about database build tools, or DBT. You might have heard about DBT. It's a very popular tool today that a lot of teams, a lot of data engineering teams are curious about. They're thinking about it, and it's causing some confusion in the industry. And what I wanted to do in today's video is to address that, to talk about what DBT is and why teams are considering DBT as part of their data stack, their data engineering tool, especially as teams are moving to Snowflake and moving to more modern platforms to do their data processing. They begin to ask about DBT, and what I'm going to do here is give you an analogy that I think will really hit the point home. So DBT stands for database build tool. It's a tool that you can use in Snowflake to do your data engineering. So you build your pipelines in DBT and it executes on Snowflake. Now, why would teams really consider using DBT? By the way, we're going to look at the DBT website here. Again, DBT stands for database build tool. It allows you to implement your code in a native language called Ginger, and it also takes that. There is some Ginger syntax, there is some SQL syntax you might be used to. It takes all of that, it translates it into SQL, and it sends that into Snowflake. It executes that on Snowflake, and then it gives you a lot of things like it automatically checks your code into Git, so you can manage your code in a repository, and there's a lot of goodness that DBT provides. Now, DBT is not trivia. I want to put that out there based on the feedback I've heard from a lot of people and my own experience working with DBT. It's not the most trivial tool you're gonna find out in the market. Now, there is some learning curve to get started with working with DBT, and so for a lot of folks that are coming on board DBT, that learning curve is scary to them, right? Because when you hear a Ginger, people start asking, so am I gonna go learn Ginger? Why should I make my team go learn Ginger just to work with my database, Snowflake in this case? Now, the analogy I'll give here for maybe executives, for managers, or for team leads, or anyone thinking about it is, just imagine the moving analogy. You know, we all at some point we're gonna move houses, not database movement. I'm talking about moving from your house. So you have a house in one location, one city, and you have to move to another city. And movement is not always easy. We all know that. A lot of people don't like moving. I personally don't enjoy it. But here is a scenario that could happen, and I'm gonna give two scenarios. The very first scenario that you can consider when moving is to say, you know what, before my movement, I'm going to do some work. I'm going to go buy boxes. And what I'm going to do is organize things into boxes, put the dishes into boxes, the clothes into boxes. Each thing has its own box. You label them, you tape them really well, you do some organization. So things are very organized. You know, everything is getting into its own box, and you do that preparation before you even leave your current house, right? And once you've done that, you then go ahead, you order the moving truck or the moving van, and you take all those boxes, you put them into a van, and you move it to your destination, to your new home. Now, what could happen is, in preparing for that move, it's definitely going to take some time and take some work and some effort. And for most people, you might be saying, I just want to move. Why should I do this work of organizing things into boxes just to move to my new location? That's one scenario. The other scenario to this could be thinking that, all right, my goal is to move, and if I can move as fast as possible, all the better. And so what you do is you just go ahead and you get the moving van or the truck or whatever it is, you bring it to your location, and you literally start from the door. Anything you see, you literally dump into the truck, right? and you just put it into the truck, and you just, as you see it, you put it into the truck. As you see it, you put it into the truck, and your truck is loaded, everything's in there. You drive over to your location, back into the garage, and start moving everything out. Now, that second scenario would definitely be faster. It's definitely going to be a faster way of moving, right? No one's going to argue with that. Everything you have in your house would get into the truck, and as quickly as possible, you are in your new location. But what will happen once you get to that new location will be the organization part, right? You might now start looking for your dish to make a meal or to microwave something. And now you have a heap or a pile of things that you have to go dig into to look for a dish or silverware or a towel or something. Now it becomes a nightmare for you to handle that in your new location. But the person who took the time to organize things in boxes before they moved, in their new location, things becomes a lot easier, because if you're looking for dishes, all you need to do is find the box where your dishes were. You open that box, you get your dishes, and your arrangement in your new location becomes a lot easier. Now, what these two scenarios indicate for us is this whole concept of trade-offs, where in one scenario, you're trading off speed for organization. So you might be slower to do the move because you're organizing, but when you do the move and you're in your new location, things will be a lot easier. So you're trading off speed for the organization. On the other hand, the second scenario we talked about is, again, it's a trade-off. You're doing things faster, but when you go into your new location, you might run into issues in terms of finding where things are, or just getting your bearings around, because you didn't take the time to organize things and put it where it should be, and have the correct labels, have them in boxes, have them in the modular way. So things now in your new location could become a lot challenging. Now, what does this mean for DBT? And let's bring this back home, talking about DBT and why a lot of companies are really thinking about this. DBT, to me, is the first scenario we talked about for the person that's moving, where you take your time, you organize things, you make things modular, things are labeled, there are dependencies, there are hierarchies, you have documentation, and that movement could be time consuming on the upfront. But once you do it, if you take the time and you do it, when you go to your new location, things become a lot easier. You benefit from the back end with that kind of movement. So DBT gives you that framework where you might have to learn Ginger. You might have to learn a new way of thinking about engineering data and putting things into Git and creating models and having dependencies on these models, right? And it can generate the documentation for you. To take your legacy code and put it in the format that DBT can understand is takes some work. There is some lift that needs to happen there. But once you've done it, if your team can go through that and take all the legacy SQL and SQL code you've been writing in your data engineering pipelines in your old world, and you convert that into DBT, that work needs to happen. Somebody's going to have to do that work. And that inertia is what a lot of teams are scared about when they think about DBT. But if your team does it, it's like the person who takes the time to organize before they move. Once you get into your new location, it's like day and night, right? The speed now becomes exponential in terms of what you can do versus the person that did not plan to move. So a lot of teams that are getting exposed to DBT, initially they look at it and say to themselves, well, why should I use DBT if I could just write SQL? We've been writing SQL all day long in my legacy world. Now I'm moving to the cloud. I'm moving to a modern platform like Snowflake. Why should I take the time to write DBT? And the response I always give is, it's a choice. It's a trade-off that you have to make at some point. Do you want speed, or do you want now, or do you want speed later on? Either way, you're going to have to pay for it at some point, right? And so a lot of companies sometimes might be tempted to say, let's opt for speed now, because the executives or they might be pressures from all over to say, hey, migrate over to Snowflake, migrate over to your new platform. And so they take all the SQL they've written and in that paradigm, in that old world, and say, hey, the natural thing is just take this SQL over. It's ANSI SQL. It can run the platform. Why don't we just copy it over and make it run? Well, you can copy it over and you can make it run. But you're not taking advantage of the organization and the documentation and the modularity that DBT or a tool like DBT provides. And that's really where the distinction is. There is really no right way or wrong way, in my opinion, right? But there are definitely trade-offs, right? On the one end, you move faster on early on, but later on you bug down. On the other side, you might be slower with DBT, but once you implement it, things become faster. DBT really builds from the data engineering or say software engineering mindset, where everything was documented. You're using CI/CD, you're using DevOps practices. Teams are able to, software engineering teams are able to deploy the productions hundreds of times a day. Little changes to production, because they've built pipelines that allow them to do that. Where you making your change, you're committing to source control, Git, GitHub, GitLab, whatever it is. In the source control, you can run your battery of unit tests. If those tests are successful, you push things to production with a click of a button, right? And the software engineering world has figured that one out long time ago. And like I said, there are startups, there are teams that are literally pushing code to production. We're not talking about pushing code to your source control. I'm talking about deploying to real production hundreds of times a day, because they have the pipelines that are robust, testable, resilient to support that, right? Imagine the business agility if your team can deploy to production hundreds of times a day. Now, in the data engineering world, unlike the software engineering world, there's a lot of catch-up that's still happening. There's some catch-up. But tools like DBT that you see here on the screen is really what is poised to change that. So with the DBTs of the world, and if you implement it the right way, you have the tests and you build things with the correct packages and models and all of that, your team can iterate and be more agile and deploy faster without worrying about, oh, if I check my code in, or if I write this code, or if I change this table, is it gonna break somebody else's report or table downstream, right? All of those dependencies can easily be visible to you. You can check things into Git. You can manage your SCM, your source code management, your SDLC, your software development lifecycle could be more robust, and things can move a lot faster. So there you have it. Why DBT? Why are companies thinking about it? Hopefully this analogy gives you some ideas to think about. There is definitely some lift on the front end. There is no denying that, where if you're working with DBT, you have to understand Ginger, understand the way how to build models, and think about things a little bit different. And you might have to rewrite your code. You might have to re-engineer your code. But if you do that upfront, the benefits down the line could be enormous. If you don't want to do that, right, you can always take your existing code and just copy and paste over. But on the backside, you don't get the organization that platforms like DBT provide. So hopefully this was helpful. Now, before you go, what I'm going to do as a follow-up to this video is a full masterclass, a full hands-on lab on DBT with Snowflake. So if you're curious about DBT, you can read about it, you can watch a lot of videos about it, or you can just take my masterclass, follow my masterclass, and it's going to walk you through everything. You're going to have Snowflake, DBT Connect. We're going to build models. We're going to see how to do unit tests in DBT. We're going to see how DBT can generate documentation, how you can do deployments with DBT. And, I always believe that if you can do it with your hands, it's way more better form of a teacher than just reading or watching videos, right? So this is really coming from the school of hard knocks. Get in and actually feel it and see how it works. I think it makes a lot more sense. So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you found this valuable. do check out that video. It's gonna be coming out here shortly, the masterclass on DBT. If not, leave a comment in the section below. If you cannot find it, I'll make sure that it's available either before or whenever I have it ready to be published. I'll definitely make sure you get your hands on it. All right, thanks for watching. This has been Fru, Tech with Fru. You have been very awesome watching to the end, and I'll see you in the next video.